So this time around we're making a leather passport wallet out of this evergreen, beautiful pull-up leather that leaves light streaks when it creases. It's waxed, it's oiled, it's really smooth, and we're pairing it up with this citrus stitching, which believe it or not is a really popular color combination. I'm going to take you through every step of this process. Let's get started. Now for projects like this, I like to start things off by laser cutting each of the pieces using my Glowforge Basic. Now for this, I like using the precision. I like using it because it scales my business up and allows me to get things out to customers a lot faster. And then right out of there, I like to sand off the laser char edge. Now because I'm using a laser cutter, it can burn the edges of the leather and get it black, so I like to get all that off so I can start with a really clean slate, and for that I use my Tandy Pro Burnishing machine. I break out my number 2 edge beveler from Palo Santo factory to round out the edges, and this is basically, if you're not familiar with the tools, it's basically a nice beautiful wooden handle with a really thin blade at the end that allows you to just shave off that little bit of material to get a rounded edge that's easier and nicer to hold. I do that on all of the card slots, the inner cash pocket, and the inner pocket that'll hold the passport, which you'll see at the very end. Now, this is just an easy process that I do the top and the bottom of each one of those panels, and you can see me working on the cash pocket here, and it's a really satisfying part of the leathercraft process. I hope you guys could hear that sound there. From there, I like to use Tokonole and a little needle applicator bottle, along with canvas cloth to burnish the edges, which gets it nice and glassy, so it's a more attractive edge than just the raw leather itself once it's cut, and you can see me doing that to the inner panel. From here, I like to skive down the innermost card slot to get rid of some of the excess material using this 12mm French skiver, also from Palo Santo factory, and I learned during this process that it definitely needs to be sharpened. From there, I like to use an 1/8 of an inch double-sided adhesive tape from Tandy to stick down those card slots. So you see the outer card slot, here's the inner card slot that I skived down a second ago. I use the outer one to help me line up the one that'll go underneath of it, so it looks like it's on top now, but then I slide out the top one, stick down the bottom one, and then stitch it shut. Citrus stitching is what the customer designed, and by the way, if you want to design your own, you can pick from a handful of leather colors. I think there's like 6 or 7 leathers to choose from, and up to 15 different stitching colors. And there you saw me use my Max Wax thread zapper to just zap that excess thread after I snipped it off. Makes it really precise. I'm using my wing divider, which I'll show you a close-up later on, set 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and then I'll stitch it down with my Cobra Class 26, which I absolutely love. It helps me get through things a lot faster and gets a really clean stitch, which you can see in a second. Here, snipping it, Max Wax thread zapper again, really precise, and then tap it down, and there's that nice stitching line. From there, I'm going to use that same Tandy double-sided adhesive tape to tape down the final slot on the inside, which is going to be that cash pocket. I like to call it a cash pocket. You can stick a number of things in there, including other cards, but if you're carrying cash around the airport, slide it in there. This is really for all the essentials, so cards, cash, passport. Aquillim 315 is my water-based glue of choice. Really easy cleanup, really easy to use, and it sticks everything down, especially enough to get me over to the sewing machine and keeps the edges together in the long run. Here is that wing divider set to 1/8 of an inch, really fine tip there that allows me to just mark on the leather. So it is scratching the leather, but you're going to stitch right over it, so it keeps it really precise once you get to stitching. And whether you're doing it by hand or doing it with a sewing machine, I always recommend using a wing divider or something similar to that to get a nice stitching line down. 1/8 of an inch is what I like to do. Some folks like to do what they call trim allowance, where you'll add a little bit of material to the edge and then mark your stitching line, stitch it, and then cut that excess off. I don't do that. I just sand the excess off to get it nice and flush. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can of course drop a comment below. Sanding it, Tokonole, canvas cloth, and then here's a bone folder. Bone folder is used to just break open each of the slots to make sure that none of the adhesive ran over past the stitching line, and you can actually fit card slots, or in this case your passport, inside the wallet without running into any of the adhesive. And there you have it. Evergreen Old Town is what it's called. It's a pull-up leather. It's beautiful. Citrus stitching. Of course, as always, I like to ask, drop a comment below letting me know what you think of this color combination and what stitching color you would have gone with. You can check it out on the site. Link is in the description if you want to see all of the stitching color options. Subscribe, like, as always, goes a long way for a small channel.